What's up, guys? Today we'll be talking about my top 5 cheapest 5G smartphones that you can pick up today. I have all those links down below. So let's get started with the Google Pixel 4a 5G. This has been an excellent phone that I've been using for a little over a week now, and it is a really nice phone. So it comes in at around $400 to $450, but it's got a plastic design. It's not too flashy, but it actually looks good compared to what Google's used to putting out. So it does have a 6.2 inch OLED display, and it's 1080p 413 for the PPI. It does have the punch hole, which I like the display, the design on this phone, the camera module setup, everything looks good. The display is fairly bright, it's very colorful as well. It's a really nice OLED display, so I really had no complaints with that. So the benefit with these Pixel phones is that you get Android 11, of course, and you get updates really fast. So when Android 12 comes out, you'll be the first to get the update, and it's just a stock pure version of Android, which is going to be just very speedy from my experience. You also have the Snapdragon 765G, which is a processor that you're going to see a lot on this list. You have the Adreno 620 GPU as well. As far as gaming performance and stuff like that, I had no issues gaming on this phone at all. So you can play Call of Duty, Fortnite, PUBG, all those games work on here just fine. It's gonna do as good as like a flagship phone and max the settings out, no, but it does play on high settings, no problem. So this phone, unfortunately, it does not have any micro SD support. You also have 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM on here, and you actually have stereo speakers which sound really good. They have really good bass presence, mids and highs, no distortion, just some excellent sounding speakers here. This phone also comes with NFC for your mobile payments, as well as a physical fingerprint scanner on the back, which works very fast. Now, one of the main things that you would look at this phone for, besides the 5G at such a cheap price, is the camera. So you do have a 12.2 megapixel lens and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. It does shoot 4K video with an 8 megapixel selfie. Absolutely love the cameras on the Pixel 4a. Just the detail, color accuracy is always great, dynamic range. The ultra wide takes really good photos, as well as the selfie camera. Video is good, not as good as the photos, but it is pretty decent. But yeah, you're gonna be blown away by the just awesome picture quality, and this also takes pretty good low light photos as well. So this is definitely an excellent camera phone, almost pretty much flagship quality. So you do have actually pretty decent battery life on this phone. It's a 3,885 milliamp battery with 18-watt fast charging. It's definitely an all-day phone. Unfortunately, I don't live in a 5G area, so for the phones I have tested on this list, I haven't been able to get 5G. But on 4G, this phone is fine. Next is the LG Velvet. So this is another awesome 5G phone for around $400 as well. This phone has a really nice design, probably one of my favorite looking designs on the list. It's got a super premium and very unique looking design with a little descending camera module setup, and it's a very slim phone as well. It's a glass and metal phone, as well as IP68 dust and water resistant. You also have a massive 6.8 inch display. It is a very big and tall phone, so do note that. So it's a POLED display, so color wise everything is super vibrant. You get really deep blacks on this phone as well, and it's it's got a curved display, which a lot of people don't like, but overall the display is fine. I don't really get accidental touches with this one, but I would recommend just picking up a case if you're worried about that. This phone is upgradable to Android 11 with the Snapdragon 765G and Adreno 620. Again, like the Pixel, performance is going to be pretty much the same. LG skin is not really super heavy on this phone, and from my experience, it's fine. I don't really have too many lag problems at all with this phone. It's very kind of close to stock Android. So you do have micro SD support, 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM. So it's a phone that again can play any game in the Google Play Store just fine. You do have stereo speakers which sound great on this phone, very loud, very good bass quality as well. And you also get NFC on board for your mobile payments. The fingerprint scanner is under the display, which is something that I always prefer because I just think it looks cool. But is it faster than like a physical one? No, but this one is very accurate. It does work. Unfortunately, there's no face unlock on this phone, but it does work. So I've never had like an actual complaint with it. Now this phone does have very good cameras, so I noticed that LG fixed a couple things with the Android 11 update, so I'm excited to get that because I do think the camera does need some tweaking with the software. But as you can see from the photos, it takes really good photos. So you have 48 megapixel standard, 8 megapixel ultra wide, 5 megapixel depth, 4K video, 16 megapixel selfie, 1080p video, and as you can see, you get some very good color accurate photos, very natural colors, pretty good detail, as well as good dynamic range. The mic quality sounds really good on this phone as well too. You have different mic effects and stuff like that you can mess with. Overall, it takes some really good photos. The front facing camera is very good too. Video is pretty solid on this phone as well, so I was really impressed with the photos. Now you do have pretty good battery life, a 4,300 milliamp battery, and remember this phone is compatible with a dual screen case, so if you want to use a dual screen case and turn this into a multitasking beast, you can do that. So it does have, like I said, 25-watt fast charging. Wireless charging is on board with this phone as well. From my experience, this phone is definitely an all-day battery life phone. I've never had an issue with getting through the day here, but again, it will vary if you're on 5G, of course. Next is the OnePlus 7T Pro 5G. So I use the standard 7 Pro. The only reason I haven't gotten this one because, like I said, I'm not in a 5G area, but it's basically the same phone with like a minor spec update. So you have an excellent design on here. It's a glass back aluminum frame. It's a very thin phone as well, and you do have a curved display on here. It's a fluid AMOLED 90 Hz HDR10 plus display, 6.7 inches, so it's a big phone with a 1440p resolution, 516 for the PPI. The reason I keep this phone is because of the display. It's one of the best displays on any smartphone still to this day. You have a no notch, no punch hole, no nothing. It uses the pop-up camera pretty much edge to edge with that curved display. Gives it that sort of like effect to where you're just holding, you know, a screen in your hand. So everything is just beautiful on this phone. When you're gaming, browsing social media, whatever, the 90 Hz is super smooth on here. Colors, everything just looks super immersive on this display, and that is the main reason why I still like this phone. Now you have Android 10 with the latest Oxygen OS. This will be getting the Android 11 update, and I will be covering that on the channel. You have the Snapdragon 855 Plus and Adreno 640. Basically, this is still a phone that can game pretty much anything, whether it's Fortnite, Call of Duty. You can play all those games on high settings, no problem. I think the only thing I like about this phone is that there's no SD card support, but if you do get this 5G model, the standard version is 256 gigs, so you get a ton of storage and 12 gigs of RAM. So it's a very powerful phone when it comes to storage and RAM and stuff like that, still, you know, without the SD card. Now you do have really good sounding stereo speakers. Unfortunately, there's no headphone jack on this phone, but you do have NFC on board for your mobile payments. A very fast under the display fingerprint scanner. It's almost instant, one of my favorite fingerprint scanners. And you also have pretty good cameras on here, a triple camera setup, 48 megapixel standard, 8 megapixel telephoto, 16 megapixel ultra wide. You get 4K video as well as 1080p for the front, and overall you get some really good looking photos, pretty good detail, depth of field, colors. It's not the most amazing photos, but I do, you know, go bounce back and forth between the Gcam application on here. The 7T Pro does have a slightly bigger battery, but not really. I mean, the 7 Pro has a 4,000, this has a 4,085 milliamp, so it's not really a big improvement, but you do have 30-watt fast charging, and this is an all-day phone for me. So I've never had an issue getting through the day on a full charge with this phone at all. Alright, so last on the list is the LG V60. I know I got like 3 LG phones on this list, but they really are some of the best 5G phones that you can get on a budget. So the V60 you can get for $400, the refurbished version that I have, or you can get the new one. It is going to cost like $600, so I would recommend just getting a refurbished version, but that's, you know, completely up to you. I love this phone. It's a big phone. It's a glass and metal phone, IP68 dust and water resistant. It's a POLED HDR10 plus, 6.8 inches, 1080p, 395 for the PPI. So it's a big, you know, phone, big display. So if you don't like big phones, you're definitely not gonna like this phone. But you got a beautiful display, super colorful. Blacks look really deep. You know, just a really nice display. It does have a little bit more bezel than I think it should have, but you do have the water drop notch, which was a big upgrade from the V50. And overall, I have no issues with the display. I would have liked to seen, you know, at least 90 hertz on here. But you have Android 10 with the LG skin, which is fine. It works, you know, very fast. If you've seen any of my speed tests, it's a super fast phone with the Snapdragon 865 chip and the Adreno 650. This is a beast when it comes to gaming, multitasking. If you get the dual screen case, it really becomes one of the best multitasking phones out there. Now you do have micro SD support and 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM on here. So again, super powerful phone when it comes to multitasking and just performance in general. So you have still, to me, some of the best sounding speakers. I think second to the ROG phone or the Rogue Phone 3. And if you see my speaker test, they go head to head. These are some super loud and really high quality sounding speakers. You also have the headphone jack with the quad DAC, so you get super high quality audio on here. So this is probably like the best phone for audio on this list. So you do have NFC on board with this phone, as well as the fingerprint scanner under the display. You have very good cameras on here, triple camera setup, a 64 megapixel standard, 13 megapixel ultra wide, plus a depth sensor along with 8K video. You also have a 10 megapixel selfie camera that also shoots 4K. As you can see from the photos, very highly detailed. You get really good selfies on here. Dynamic range is nice. The color science is very natural, which is something that I always love on here. I've never felt the need to install G camera or anything because it does take really good photos by itself. Now this phone also has excellent battery life with a 5,000 milliamp battery with wireless charging. So the phone by itself, I can't speak. The dual screen case is going to drain the battery life a little bit more, but honestly, the phone by itself really does last at least 2 days. For me, so you really, this is not a phone you have to charge at all really when it's on a full charge. So it's got amazing standby time and just excellent battery life. It really is a beast on battery life. Alright, so last is the LG V50. Now I was sort of going back and forth between this phone and the OnePlus Nord 10 and 10, which is also a very good phone, but you can pick the Nord up for the same price as the V50, but I think the V50 is still the better phone for sure. But the thing about the V50 is you have to get an unlocked version or the Verizon version, which I'll link down below, because the Sprint version does not support 5G anymore since the merger and stuff like that. You do have a full premium design on here. It's IP68 dust and water resistant. You have a POLED display at 6.4 inches. It's a 1440p display. Beautiful display when it comes to just how sharp it is and the colors and how the blacks look. Everything is super nice on this display. It's 538 for the PPI. Have a little notch up top as well. It is upgradable to Android 10. These got the Snapdragon 855, Adreno 640. Again, a very powerful phone. This is a phone that you can play games on high settings, no problem. You also have micro SD support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 6 gigs of RAM. This phone actually has the headphone jack with the quad DAC, as well as some very nice sounding stereo speakers, as well as NFC. Your physical fingerprint scanner is on the back end. What I love about this phone is that the 5G logo lights up, which is always really cool. I've never really seen that on any other phone. I just thought it was a little cool addition to have. I think it was one of the first like 5G phones to come out. You also have very good cameras on the V50 at 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel telephoto, 16 megapixel ultra wide with 4K video. You also have a dual camera setup up front, which is really nice. So that's why you have that space there with a notch, because you have a wide lens for taking like group selfies and stuff like that. If you do a lot of that, then that is super beneficial. And this phone has excellent battery life as well. You have a 4,000 milliamp battery with wireless charging, as well as 18-watt fast charging. So this is a phone that can last me all day, no problem. Easily 8 hours of screen on time. So what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.